morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you. It's nice to see so many familiar faces, and probably even more exciting to see so many new faces. It always feels good when our community or our tribe and just because this goes on the web forever and I'm going to need it one day, the most amazing wife imaginable. And what I wanted and what I really, there's the core message that I would like to get out to you today is how quickly the pace of change is happening. And really, to build on Dave's words, and thanks a lot to 500 Startups for, first of all, for bringing us all together, is that things really are moving, at the speed of a blink of an eye. And if you don't have your eyes open, you're missing a lot of things that are happening, and I'm going to try to validate that. But to start off, I really want to focus on three things with you. First of all, it's just telling you what we do. Second of all, is telling you why we do it. And third of all, really the lessons that we've learned. And we'll kick right into it. So first of all, who are we? So we're an early stage venture fund. We were established by Accelerator Technology Holdings, which was one of the first VCs in the Arab world. We manage two funds. And what we aim to do is connect between East and West. And we connect between East and West by essentially having a fund based out of Jordan with fantastic limited partners. So just a shout out to Cisco, the European Investment Bank, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, King Abdullah Fund for Development, several others. We manage a fund that invests between 200,000 to 3 million into early stage tech ventures, predominantly in Jordan and in Egypt. A fantastic team, shout out to Hagop and Dina here. We also manage another fund that's based out of New York, which is really, really interesting because the nature of the LPs in that fund, whereas we wanted to focus on bringing global money into the region, we actually focused on taking angels from the region and exposing them to the US ecosystem so they would really get a feel and exposure to what angel investing feels like and get a more confidence in investing in regional tech. And so we manage a fund in the US that has made about 35 investments so far, which is led by Namek Zarbi, just a brilliant guy as well. So great team, and there's Jenny here. So we're supported by a fantastic team. Look for her at Accelerator Technology Holdings that help us do all the things that we do. So why do we do this, right? And I think just to put it for all of us into context, we wake up, we have a generation of, 150, 200 million youth that wake up with 1 million challenges on their mind, right? We have essentially seeded so many problems to this up and coming generation, and we don't realize how big they are, but they're quite significant. And so they wake up realizing, right, first and foremost, the amount of things that they need to overcome to get things done. But the beauty of it is, we've also raised great kids. And I emphasize this. So for all of the messes we've left behind, we've done a great job at raising and educating our kids, which has created a generation of amazing entrepreneurs, right, that want to capture these opportunities. And I think so for all the mess that we see around us, all of these equate to amazing, amazing opportunities for this up and coming generation of entrepreneurs in the region. And the most brilliant part of it all, and we see them on a daily basis, is how many of them are taking advantage of it. They're actually trying to get things done. So we would typically see around 400 to 500 entrepreneurs a year. Each and every one, well, most of them are a lot smarter than I am, much more driven, and they have a real sense of purpose. And I want to share with you the whys, right? So we know these numbers, right? We're very familiar with these numbers. What's interesting about these numbers is the pace of change. So we've added 140 million mobile subscribers in the last 4 years. If we're operating as one organism, we are so networked, and this connectivity is driving enormous amount of demand, right? It's driving an enormous amount of expectation for what services need to look like. And this has led to simple things like self-expression. And this is a Jordanian startup, Shita happens, and which is a pun on the fact that every time it rains in Jordan and probably other parts of the region, everything floods, right? And you have about 224 million Arabs that just want to express themselves. And it's really interesting because with the challenge that we've created, we've unleashed an enormous amount of creativity for this generation and a lot of self-expression. Now, all of this is business. I want you to notice one thing as I'm showing you these slides, who the investors are, because I find it surreal about the diversity of who is investing in our youth, right? And I think we have a lot to be proud of, and we have a lot more opportunity to do a lot better than that, right? So Joe Bedu, as an example, is funded via the crowd. I don't know, how many people have funded via the crowd? If you haven't, you should. Whether peer-to-peer lending or just, take 25K, 10K, take a chance and make things happen. This is how companies like Joe Bedu are able to do the things that they're able to do. And also buy Joe Bedu products, and I'm not an investor. So then we look at other opportunities. We look at e-commerce, right? Globally, 7% of global retail is done via e-commerce. I'm not talking about the US, I'm not talking about hyper-developed markets. I'm talking about a global average. Look at where we're at. We're at 1.5%. That is an enormous amount of economic opportunity that our entrepreneurs are building businesses around. And that 1.5 arguably is probably even generous because it includes how we buy our airline tickets, but a significant amount of opportunity. Who's solving these problems? Here's some examples. Actually, this is a 500 startups portfolio company. Kash Basha, a brilliant entrepreneur out of Jordan, and he tells us that even though it's just 1%, e-commerce represents only 1% of our market, what's even worse is that 85% of this 1% transactions are done on global sites. Look at the opportunity. Another one, and plugging ourselves here because this is one of our portfolio companies, amazing entrepreneur, a Syrian entrepreneur honestly, just an amazing team, right? Lights out team. The opportunity he's going after is that less than 0.05% of SMEs are online. Think of this opportunity, right? It's just phenomenal, the potential. And just to give you a context, 8% of SMEs in Europe have online stores, transact online on a continuous basis. So then we look at digital ad spend, another opportunity. We're very far behind. And I won't go through the numbers, but just imagine today that we're leaving, if we just want to get to global averages in 2015, we're leaving $1.5 billion on the table in 2015, right? That's just if we want to catch up to global averages. And I think we're much better than global averages, but let's just stay with global averages, right? And this is in 2015. Imagine what that number will be in 2018 or 2020 in terms of the enormous amount of opportunity that's out there. I'm using this right, I'm very proud of myself. And Tomatum, another brilliant company, great team, great founder, just taking on a simple challenge. Less than 1% of apps are in Arabic. And I'm looking at the audience here. I know how many of us would use Arabic apps if they existed, right? And less than 1% is there. Significant market opportunity for these guys, right? Especially when all the research shows you that we prefer to consume within our own language. I just want to point out, as I'm looking through these, in terms of the diversity of these investors, as an example with Fuad, Kash Basha, Aramex Ventures. I didn't even know Aramex had a venture arm. But corporations are coming in, banks are coming in, the crowd is coming in. So you're really seeing a shift. So if you're closing your eyes and opening your eyes, the ecosystem is moving at a hyper-accelerated pace. And this is, a soft spot, Abjad, a lot of respect, because she's tackling a problem 99.9% of people don't even understand exists. People love to read Arabic books, right? And less than 2% of Arabic books even have a presence online. And I'm not talking about being able to buy the book. Even a blog post on the book, a review. It's just, there's nothing out there. Huge opportunity that this generation of entrepreneurs is trying to solve on all of our behalves. Access to finance, we all know the number. You guys know it better than I do. It's just, look who we're leaving behind, right? The banking sector in a large part of the region has not been equipped or had its eyes open on small, micro, small and medium enterprises. Well, people are coming to disrupt this. They've had it, right? And we see the birth of peer-to-peer lending. And if I could share with you the numbers of this company, you'd be amazed at how 4 people sitting in an office in Amman are able to fundamentally transform the concept of access to finance to SMEs, right? And we don't compare it to microfinance. These are real loans for real businesses that are, funding pure growth to make really fantastic things happen. And these SMEs, ultimately, if we talk about job creation, represent 60 to 80% of the jobs that we create. So I won't go through this as well, but BitOasis, I don't know if you guys know her, but with Bitcoin solving the cash problem. This is one of my favorite quotes in terms of the significance. This is a startup in Egypt called Dr. Bridge. We're an investor into it, but what I love is his quote, right? There's 180 million annual doctor visits in Egypt every year, right? And they wait. So I think the time he puts here, 1.5 hours for a wait, is generous. Most of the when we did our field work, most of it is like 3 to 4 hours. People are waiting to see a doctor. If he saves that time, he has a doctor booking system. By saving time, he is giving Egypt back 240 million hours a year. Think of the productivity. Think of the potential. Think of what that means. Phenomenal, right? And we also have global opportunities. And this is a fantastic team, Mixed Dimensions. Entrepreneur from Gaza, entrepreneur from the West Bank, were incubated at a university in Jordan, are building the postscript of 3D printing. So some of our guys and girls, before I get into trouble, Nina's sitting here somewhere, some of our guys and girls are trying to solve global problems, and I would argue that's okay, right? Particularly on the technology side. And they're taking on a big challenge that 90% of 3D printed models can't be printed, right? And there's thousands and thousands of more. I can talk about these. I mean, it's all I do for a living. I could talk about these guys. I am passionately in love with each and every one of these entrepreneurs, as I encourage all of you to be as well. So we've seen the entrepreneurs. Who else is out there, right? Look at the VCs in the ecosystem. Phenomenal, right? I mean, we're growing. And if I forgot somebody's logo, please send it to me, right? But I just wanted to make a point that it's not as lonely as it used to be. You're shocked. We were, talking to. I heard that Aramco Ventures, Saudi Aramco Ventures, $200 million to invest. These are really encouraging numbers, right? Accelerators, incubators, everything. The dots maybe aren't connecting yet, but are starting to take their direction towards really connecting towards something special. Business plan competitions, and all the stuff going on. And before we think, well, these are small things. They're immaterial. They're highly material. Oasis, 115 investments, raised $30 million. Zinc, 1 year, co-working space. In 1 year, over 13,000 entrepreneurs have used the facility. Look at the MIT Entrepreneurship Award, 300 businesses. They've created 300 businesses. Their last batch was 6,000 entrepreneurs from universities pitching. This is real, right? And it's changing by the day. And I won't go through this, but just corporations are coming in. In Jordan, we're seeing banks directly invest into startups at VC-type deals, right? Which is very, very encouraging. We're seeing government, Circular 331 in Lebanon and what that did to access to, further capital. We're seeing family offices starting to invest into our ventures. In the cap tables, we're seeing the shifts. And they're taking shape. And just to show you, since August, I said I will do an inventory for the year. It got boring because this slide would have taken 5 years of activity 3 years ago. Look at it today. We're talking about, because I just wanted to use this, so I apologize. 4 acquisitions, five acquisitions since August. Look at all of this funding that's going on. And look at the mix of investors, from IFC to VCs to new VCs that have been, that are coming out, Bico and Leap, with new funds, MEVP with their new fund, Globals, Rocket, Nasper. So you're seeing this technology, Synopsys. You're seeing all of this stuff happen. Uber, I think, is a big deal when it's announcing that it's making a $250 million investment into the region. What Kareem has done is absolutely phenomenal. So this is all real changes, but we can do much, much better. This is where we are in our investment on a per capita GDP basis. I mean, this gap, right? And just look at the numbers, 40 billion in the US invested in startups, 8 billion in Europe, I think 3 to 4 billion in Israel, and 250 million across the entire Arab world. I really genuinely think and hope that we can do much, much better collectively. So what are we seeing? I'll go through these really, really quickly. It is, our entrepreneurs are building for two things. One, okay, they're serving a market need, and two, because they're serving that market need, they're also an impact venture. So you get a 2-for-1, because they're solving real problems that make people's lives better or more pleasurable. That's a big deal, right? Two, people, capital, and ideas are highly mobile, and it's phenomenal. So you have startups in Dubai with teams in Egypt, another team in Jordan. You have, if you look at the cap tables of these companies, we're investors from everywhere. We're investors from all across the region. Our teams are all across the region. Even though our markets are inefficient, our entrepreneurs are figuring out how to break through these inefficiencies to make things happen. Within the tech startup universe, there's significant cross-border activity. I won't talk about that, we spoke about that. And the LPs, we're starting to see new LPs come in, which is really fantastic. As investors, I think we're constantly adapting. It's okay that the dots will connect. I think, you know, we make mistakes, but we're learning quickly, we're learning from each other. The community is much closer and friendlier than it needs to be. We don't need to be a carbon copy of one another. I don't need to be the smartest guy. I think we're all learning and adapting and connecting the dots really, really quickly. And I think the diversity of investment styles and mandates is just strengthening us because we're getting a wider coverage collectively. And I just want to stop and tell you that just if you take all of this down and you see all of these dots connecting, and if you start to extrapolate what's going on, and you're seeing this convergence happen, like I've been trying to show you, and I hope I was able to show that to you, think of what this region will look like 5 years from now. Think of what this region will look like 10 years from now, and think of what this region will look like 15 years from now. And I think it's utterly phenomenal, and it was a pleasure to have had the chance to talk to you, and I'm going to shut up and sit down. Thank you.